Welcome to the Global Rugby and Sports Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of sports, exploring the journeys of your favourite personalities, athletes and legends. Each episode we'll bring you candid conversations that reveal the stories behind the stats, the challenges behind the triumphs, and the passion that drives these incredible individuals. Our podcast offers an intimate glimpse into the lives of those who inspire us all. Tune in for insights, entertainment, and the human side of sport.
Hey guys, it's the Global Rugby and Sports Podcast here. Today we are welcomed with one of the greats, former professional rugby player. He's now a very, very well acclaimed international rugby referee. He will be refereeing some big rugby championship tests coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got Karl Dickson on board today. Really appreciate having you on, mate. It's such an honour to have you on. And you're very, very highly ranked around us. So, yeah, man, how are you?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. I don't think I've ever been referred to as one of the greats from my playing career, but I'll definitely take it. But no, really pleased to be on. Thanks for having me, and all good. Looking forward to my trip down to Fiji, then New Zealand, starting tomorrow with a long 31-hour journey.
Yeah, so 169 games for Harlequins. What was that like? How did your professional career go for you?
Yeah, I think professional career-wise, I was very lucky in terms of I probably started a little bit later. I was at Bedford from the ages of 22 to 26. I actually didn't play much rugby at university. I kind of quit due to schooling and never really made it at school. And luckily, I gave it one more go, and Bedford picked me up, played 4 seasons there, and then luckily Quins came knocking. So, mate, it was a fantastic career, and I could have carried on playing, had contracts, offers to carry on, but I'd obviously been refereeing for 2.5 years while doing that, and then kind of said to the RFU, "Would you like me to come and referee? I'd like to take you up on that offer if a contract was available." But a lot of stuff prolonged my career while I was playing. Luckily, I was playing with one of the greats, Danny Kerr. And due to the fact, obviously, he probably played 50% of the game, it allowed me to prolong my career a little bit. But thoroughly enjoyed my time there.
Oh, that's awesome. What was it like transitioning from professional rugby into becoming a referee? Was it tough or?
I say this kind of to everyone. It wasn't tough in terms of the actual physical sort of attributes. It's more when you're a player, you're kind of looked after. It's turn up at the bus at 8:30, bring X, Y, and Z. Your boots and what you're wearing, and everything else is provided for. And then you go into the refereeing side, and if you're the ref normally, you're in charge of everybody, telling what everybody up to wear, what time to come along, that sort of side of things in terms of just your day-to-day admin. But I think like the biggest or the hardest transition for me was almost getting that balance between the player referee, where it's just play, come on lads, let's play, we all want to play as players, and then the law referee sort of side as well. Trying to get that balance was really tough at first, and that's probably where I struggled the most, just trying to get that balance and not just get everybody to keep playing, because that's what most players want to do. So admin side was obviously a little bit of a challenge, but the main challenge for me was the player versus ref, that equity in the middle kind of thing, balance.
Yeah, a bit of a change of pace, eh?
Yeah, a little bit of change of pace. Yeah, definitely a little bit of change of pace. I mean, you go from having a team of 14 around you to a team of 2 plus 1 in the sky. So,
What made you decide pursue a career in refereeing? Once obviously you were playing and you were getting all your tickets and whatnot and all that. What kind of made you fully go, yeah, I'm going to go all in on this. This is what I want to do.
while I was at Quins, actually, one of the back rowers who was the captain for a bit, a guy called Will Skinner, he mentioned just one day randomly after training that he'd done his referee's course. So I was like, "Oh, okay, that actually sounds interesting. I'd love to give it a go, just see if it's something that fits me. Being a 9, obviously, my conversations with referees were, very frequent while I was playing. So I was
Mm.
like, well, let's see what it's like on the other side. So I did my referees course, went out and refereed an under 16 game, probably about 3 or 4 months later, and just really enjoyed it. Enjoyed something a little bit different. Every game became a different challenge, trying to learn, trying to pick up new stuff, trying to figure out stuff. And for me, the biggest thing was the challenge, just the challenge every week, and it was different and exactly the same as playing. The challenge every week, something a little bit different. And I knew with the refereeing, if I did it for a couple of years while I was playing, potentially after I finished, I could do that for another 10, 15 years. And I've been very fortunate that, it's worked out for me. But that's how I got into it, pretty much just purely from having a conversation with one of the boys at training.
What's worked out pretty neat, hasn't it?
What was it like for you? Because obviously you would have been refereeing some old teammates and stuff like that. How was that transition? How did that feel like to?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually referee Quins probably till about 5 or 6 years after I started refereeing. It was kind of like a discussion I had with my boss. It's just it was almost a potential lose-lose to me because you don't want to be seen to be giving your former team anything, but you also don't want to be going against them to make it look like you're not giving something to them. So I actually refereed them in a preseason game first, just to kind of get that monkey off my back, and thankfully it worked pretty well. But these guys know me, and now in the Premiership, after sort of 5, 6 years, you get to know most of the guys, and that's probably the difference between sort of domestic rugby and international. Is we speak to these guys every week. We see them all the time. We referee them all the time. So you build those relationships. They know you. I know them. So you have that relationship. So the friends, kind of ex-players, ex-pros that you played with, all become sort of amalgamated into one. But like anything, there's always going to be people out there who think that because you played for a team, that you're going to have sort of always going to have that affiliation and look to make decisions their way.
Yeah. So what was it like learning that you were gonna referee your first international game?
Um, it was, I mean, I kind of fast tracked through it in terms of the end of my first year of full time refereeing. I went to the Junior World Cup, so I refereed there. And then literally after the Junior World Cup in the summer, I did my first international game. Even though it wasn't capped, I did the USA versus the New Zealand Maori in Soldier Field in front of, I think it was something like 80 or 90,000. So it was,
Phenomenal.
yeah, it was, obviously a massive privilege to be picked for it. Totally unexpected that early in my referee career, but these are the games that you want to do. You want to do these international games when you become a referee. Like a player, when you're a player, you want to go and play at the top level. You want to play for your country. So it's the
Yeah.
same as a referee. You want to referee for your country in some of the biggest games, and that was my stepping stone forward. And it was a massive privilege and a stepping stone going forward.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, it was when you see some of these guys like Nigel Owen was doing the game before me, and I think it was like Ireland, Italy, and you're like, these are the guys who were at the time, the best in the world. So you're kind of like, oh
Yeah,
god, I'm kind of the newbie on the block here, just trying to sort of look up to these guys and take as much information from them as I can.
yeah.
Was it pretty daunting at the beginning?
Was it daunting at the beginning? Um, I probably wouldn't say it was. So I wouldn't say it was daunting, but like anything, my first. So when I'd refereed a few championship games, they kind of said to me, "Oh, after I think I'd been at the RFU for 3 months, they went right. You can referee your first Premiership game on TV on a Friday night in front of the shed in Gloucester. And if you know Gloucester very well, rugby's very big down there. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of a big game. Like early on in my career, and I'm still kind of finding my feet. So you kind of there's always that little bit of, and this still happens today. There's always that little bit of nerve as you're sort of about to blow the whistle. But then as soon as you blow the whistle, it's just, it's a game of rugby. And the fact that I played for 13 years in front of crowds, noise and stuff made it that little bit easier. So when you went into the international arena, it made it that little bit easier. The fact that you'd played in some of these, sorry, that you'd been used to these kind of environments, and probably helped me a lot in terms of that, of almost just trying to not look at those nerves and just kind of push through them as soon as you blew the whistle.
Yeah, what sort of advice would you give to just anyone trying to get into the referee ranks? Trying to come through if they're even trying to referee local level or high level? What's just a real common piece of advice, or maybe saying that doesn't really quite get talked about enough?
I think that the biggest thing I say to all referees when they ask me advice is go out and referee as much as you can. Referee as much as you can in the early stages, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to try and find your feet. So you almost want to make the mistakes early and learn from them, and then figure out how you learn from them. And the best possible way of doing that is going out every week and then, right, okay, I got this wrong. How do I fix it? Right, next week I'll go out and change that and make it better. And you try and change bits each week. And some people are really good law wise and know the law, but do they have the conversational piece? Do they have the management piece? So it's, you go out as much as you can and referee. You learn something every game. And I talk about this a lot, even at the level we referee. Say there's always those 1% you can get better every week or every day. Like, what's one thing you can take from that game that you go, do you know what? I do that slightly different next week. And I think that's probably the biggest bit of advice I'd give.
Do you feel like you're still learning something every single game?
I think I not necessarily. I wouldn't say learning that you're not, because with regards to, like, obviously learning. I think you just tweak certain things. Maybe something you
Yeah.
said, maybe the way you ran, or how you did something. And I think it's more of a tweak rather than learning. I mean, I guess we learn the fact that every year there's new laws coming in, there's new things that are happening. So
Yeah.
we have to learn how to articulate a lot of this stuff, how we're going to officiate it, what does that look like, and obviously we get into group meetings around this sort of stuff and try and figure out the best way. So in terms of learning on a massive global scale across the game, definitely. In terms of week to week, I think it's more tweaks and bits around it, because ultimately rugby's not a perfect game.
Yeah.
We're going to get stuff wrong as referees, like players are going to get stuff wrong. No one can be perfect, and that's part of the game.
Are you the sort of, out of curiosity, like how many, not exactly how many times, but have you ever had to kind of go back through the law book, after a game and gone, well, what happened there? Like, that was a fully, just a random rugby occurrence, or have you always just been, always because you played the game and whatnot, have you just been
Oh.
kind of, you know?
You find this is really interesting. You find a lot of players don't know the law, and I'm talking like you top players who actually don't know the law at all. And like when I was playing, when I did my referee course, I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know some of these laws. So
Mm.
yeah, you sometimes, as you come in through, you do sometimes have that kind of mind block where you're like, oh, okay, that, I'm not talking now. When I was coming, that not straight line out, is that a scrum or is it a free kick? Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm not 100%. Is numbers in the line out
Yeah.
free kick, or is it a scrum? What is it? And you suddenly just get a mind block, and then you're constantly thinking, what is it? What is it? And that's like coming through. There was at sort of the top level. We do law exams. When we all get together, we all do law exams and stuff. But the law sometimes is there for interpretation, can be a little bit grey. So, it's more about how you implement the law rather than factually what the law says. And that's sometimes difficult because fans are like, well, I thought that was the law or this was the law. But there are some sort of grey areas within it, and how we implement it. And that's sometimes part of the confusion, but also I think sometimes part of the beauty of the game and the fact that there are those grey areas, and people can have an opinions and thoughts around them.
We can imagine if some of the players are a bit hazy on some of the laws, you can imagine what the armchair experts, you imagine what they think.
Well, yeah, of course. And the small things around it, like Players, like everyone, we're going to make mistakes. Not quite 100% sure and stuff. But and again, like armchair fans and stuff, they have the luxury of a 360 sort of, you know, they can see everything. They get to see the whole thing as a referee.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to see like a 45-degree angle sometimes. So you are going to miss stuff. And then they get the benefit of the commentary. They also listen to what other people think and then go, "Oh, okay, well, they must be right. So I'll jump on that as well." Um, but again, that's the beauty of it. Like, it's great. People can have an opinion, and I think everyone should have an opinion. People want to be involved in it and say what they think. And sometimes they're going to be right, sometimes they're going to be wrong, and that's human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you manage the pressure in like a high stakes game, and is it sometimes hard to stay composed?
So again, it's like anything. You do stuff over and over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Processes, habits that you do. When we go into games, we do lots of deliberate practice. So that looks around like, I'll do it individually where I'll look at TMO clips and talk through it myself, how I would do it. Then we'll do it in a team environment with the two ARs and the TMOs. So you're trying to like master the art of how you articulate these things, how you sell the decisions to the crowd, to the commentary,
Mm.
how you articulate, break down things, scrum things that everybody understands. So you're trying to
yeah,
build these systems, all the prep that you do during the week going into the game. And when you go into the game, like I'm a big believer of like almost that reset button. So when I blow the whistle at the start of the game, that phase might last 45 seconds, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. As soon as I blow the whistle to stop, I rub my fingers together. That's just my trigger, and it's almost right. Reset. Don't forget
yeah,
about what's happened. Forget what's
Yeah.
gone. Nothing might happen. Someone might be sent off in the first 30 seconds. I've got to reset and move on. And
Yeah.
that's the skill, what you need to learn yourself, because everybody has their own triggers and how you can bring yourself back down. And like we all know, the biggest decisions in the game are the ones that go on the screen, because then you give
yeah,
60 odd thousand people in a stadium an opinion, and then however many at home. Whereas things don't go on a screen, and you're refereeing in the moment and explaining stuff. Well, then people don't have time to potentially form opinion. The game has moved on.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be pressure in these games. Like when you come to the last 10 minutes of a one-score game, there's pressure, but there's not pressure on me. There's pressure on the players as well. So you just want to make sure that you stick to what your processes are, what you've prepped for, your habits, and then you hope that they carry you through to the end of the game.
oh, awesome.
Mm. So when you got involved in the Rugby World Cup, how did that feel? Because obviously you had some amazing games to officiate on that, and then you came on. You were AR, and then you came on as referee.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was very fortunate. Again, I went to the 2019 World Cup in Japan as an AR,
Yeah.
and very fortunate that I got obviously selected for the 2023. And yeah, we had some fantastic games at the World Cup. And, you want to be involved in the biggest games like you do normally, but at World Cup, it's even more special with the amount of people watching it, the amount of people coming to the games. And obviously, the pinnacle for me was, after 15 minutes coming onto a quarter final, even though it was at the detriment of one of my obviously colleagues at the time,
Yeah.
who I got on really well with and had a special relationship with, and it was sad to see him as an international career him go out like that. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, for me, it was a fantastic opportunity to be involved in one of the biggest games in the World Cup, and trying to get your mindset to go from ARing straight into refereeing within sort of a couple of minutes and realize that this means everything is it's difficult. But again, you fall back on those habits and processes, and you go out and just try and referee the best your ability. And you're not going to please everybody. I mean, in that game itself, there was. If you're a Wales fan, you're probably saying there should have been a yellow card against Argentina, and if you're an
Yeah.
Argentinian fan, you're like, what a fantastic call by the ref. So, you split people around and stuff, and that's sometimes the decisions you have to make, and sometimes you can't please everybody.
Yeah. You'll
It's
never
kind of like
please
when a
them.
player, when someone gets, it's kind of like when someone gets injured, and then obviously a player has to come off the bench and kind of just fill in their role, and at the end of the day, they got to fill in a role. And if you do the right mental prep throughout the week and you've done your or your homework, I guess it probably makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly the same as a player.
Mm.
You're coming on and fitting into a system. It's exactly what we were doing. We were coming on
Mm.
and changing around, but the system was the same. It just changed around slightly. Um, and what's fortunate is you've worked with these guys before in different games, so it makes it a little bit easier. You're not going in there working with people you've never worked with.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any sort of tips when it comes to communicating, when it just comes to communicating under pressure? Just mainly with coaches, coaches, captains, but just in general, even your own bosses, just all those sort of things. Like when you got to front, when you got to communicate, what sort of things, what sort of ways do you like to kind of refer back to?
So I think there's sort of two different ways you look at this in terms of purely like a game and coaches and stuff during the week and all the rest of it. I'm a big fan of the killing with kindness, particularly on a
Yeah.
field, calm,
Mm.
collective, really listening to them, really engaging with what they have to say. Sometimes an arm around them. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'll have a look. Almost, what do you need from me? But also go and find them in downtime. So you go and find, the tight head from Tonga. What are you seeing? Yeah, yeah, great. Really, really enjoyed that last scrum. Then always go over to Fiji. Lou said, really enjoyed that scrum. Fantastic. So you're almost problem solving and giving feedback and everything during the game. And, you're killing with kindness. You're nice and calm, nice and collective. And you're trying to get them to understand what you're trying to achieve and vice versa. But there's always that situation where you know, you'll kill them with kindness, you'll kill them with kindness, even when they're frustrated. You've got to understand players get frustrated. I know I did sometimes when I played. That kill them with kindness brings them back down, lets them know that they've been heard, let them know you've been listened to. But if they
Yeah.
push the boundaries too much, well, then we have to have a situation where you kind of turn to, okay, listen now, we've tried this, this hasn't worked. Now we're going down a different avenue. And you need
Mm.
to be a little bit more stern to make sure that your message gets across. And that's that you got to find that balance.
Mm.
Just that human side of it, eh?
It's so human.
Yeah.
Like we all know, like players make mistakes, refs make mistakes. Things happen in the game that potentially we miss, they miss. Tries and the players' arms are up in the air or whatever. And if the captain comes over to you, if you just dismiss him and push him away and go no thanks, well that incites that frustration. And
Mm.
Mm.
we all know a frustrated player potentially goes from that. We use the blue to the red. You're in that red, and suddenly you might do something you wouldn't normally do.
Mm.
Whereas if they come over and like, what is it? Okay, mate, completely understand. Don't worry, I'll ask that question. We can definitely get that, and I'll get an answer for you. And then we come over. As soon as we get the answer, they might not agree with it, but you walk over. Listen, this is what we saw. TMO said X, or we thought this, but really appreciate you coming over. And instantly that frustration just drops down. It's the human side of thing, and people become less frustrated and move on to the next job. But that's the plan sometimes, just to almost keep it nice and calm. Like again, from playing is I had to change a lot because my attitude was probably a little bit different in terms of how I reacted towards referees and kind of constantly questioning and asking them in a probably in a manner which was respectful as it should have been.
You wouldn't have been the only one, though.
Oh
There's a
no,
few out
there
there.
definitely some, but yeah, I definitely had to change quite a lot and learn to control that.
How do you make a decision, or how do you like come to a decision when a situation is ambiguous or unclear?
Um, I think at the end of the day, what you're looking for, and I learned this the hard way.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes, I had a situation in a game um, previously. I made a decision and was categorically told that I was wrong, even though I made the most rugby understandable decision.
Yeah.
Everyone got it, no one complained, but on review, I was told I was wrong and I should have done something different. And I took that personally and took that into a different game and made the decision that I was told to make, and it caused chaos.
Mm.
And no one understood it, no one got it, but I was completely right in the law book. So I learned from that sometimes you've just got to make the most understandable rugby decision available. And I think that's the key. When you're like, this is, not black and white, there is some grey here. What's the most understandable decision here that everybody will understand, that I can articulate, which makes sense, which is not random without the law? There is law in there, but there's some rugby understanding as well. And I think that's probably the key part, because sometimes if you just stick to law, the whole world doesn't understand it, even though people behind the scenes get it and go, yeah, you were right. So that's the balance sometimes you've got to get. It's the rugby understanding with law involved in there rather than just all law based.
Yeah, makes sense.
And sometimes people aren't going to agree with it. Some people aren't going to agree with it, and sometimes these ambiguous situations become, the focal point of social media trends for that weekend. That's sometimes what happens.
Yeah, God, it's just got to be water off a duck's back, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have to have that situation. Like, the biggest thing for me is, I very much focus on friends and family around me, and then my colleagues and peers, what their thoughts are and how they think,
Yeah.
rather than you know the social media aspect of it. Yeah, and I think everyone's entitled to opinions, and commentary, and pundits and all that. Potentially have opinions around stuff, but I got to think we've got to understand sometimes I'm not always right, and sometimes they're not always right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the balance that you got to find. And sometimes it backfires on us, and that's the way it goes. And you got to move on.
This got shared online. I don't know how they got it. It might have been an interview or whatever it was, but there's a Dream 15 that got released online that
Yeah,
was yours, apparently.
yeah,
Um,
all eight rugby. Yeah,
between you and me, brilliant teammate. Honestly, wouldn't change a lot. Um, honestly, right up there. Do you want to go through some of those selections? If you don't remember any of them, I can refer them back to you. But
yeah.
for example,
Right, it
got
was a good few months ago, but there's some good players in there.
yeah, like I'll go for a few of them. We'll go, for example, 10, one of my favorite players, Damien McKenzie. Even we'll go number one, Angus Bell. Even the likes of Will Jordan at fullback. Obviously on the field, you get the closest view. You get such a good view of these guys. And what do you see on the field about some of these players? Anton Dupont.
Yeah, I think again, we use Damien McKenzie for an example. Like, I know Roden Barrett starts at 10 for New Zealand a little bit now, obviously, over the last few weeks. There's other players, Ontamac from France and people like that who are fantastic players. For me, what I enjoy about, these types of players and Damien is the fact that you expect the unexpected. This guy's going to attack from everywhere. He wants to run the ball. He wants the ball in his hand, and it's fantastic to watch. And
Mm,
that's a different type of player. That's what I enjoy. Some people will enjoy a 10 who's more structured, who's more of a kicking 10. Who probably doesn't, have that flair, X factor type thing. But again, Damien McKenzie for me, what a player. Angus Bell, and this is just my personal, I think he's probably one of the best loose heads in the world. Destructive ball carrier, fantastic scrummager, really big guy, and a really nice guy as well. So again, when you see guys like that big carrying the ball, you're like, making some seriously big hits, big contacts. You're like, fair play to him. And you mentioned Will Jordan as well, fullback. Um, you know, one of the most elusive runners in world rugby at the moment. You give him a bit of space at the back, and he causes team problems. And finally, Anton Dupont. You don't really need to say too much. Probably and this is probably one of the interesting things. Is he the best stereotypical nine in the world? Maybe not, because he does stuff other nines don't do. But it's fantastic
yeah.
to see, fantastic but because he wears nine, he is the best nine in the world. But he just is not probably your stereotypical nine, because he does stuff that you don't see any other nines doing.
Yeah, obviously runs the game as a 10 almost and does a bit of all, so
Yeah, I mean, he controls the
Yeah.
game. He kicks off both feet.
Mm.
You have to see what he did in sevens around speed and jackal and all that kind of stuff. He's an all round player, and he's it's a pleasure to watch, and he's a pleasure to referee as well.
Good to hear, man. Appreciate the answers, bro.
No problem.
So you're heading down south pretty soon. Was it Fiji and then Auckland?
That's it. Fiji for Fiji Tonga, and
Yeah.
then down to Auckland for the New Zealand South Africa test.
Have you spent a lot of time down these ways before, or?
Yep, I think I've been to New Zealand 4 out of the last 5 years. I did the Ireland New Zealand test down there. I've done 2 Bledisloes down there. So this will be the 4th time I think I've been down that sort of way. Obviously, I've been to Australia last year for the Bledisloe. So yeah, I've done a fair few games down there now.
Oh, awesome.
Enjoy it.
It was nice
And
going
you,
from summer to winter.
yeah. Well, it's not bad if you ski or something. You can, if you have a day off, you can head out to the
Yeah,
mountains
unfortunately,
for
I'm
a
not allowed to
ski.
ski, so yeah, unfortunately, I'm playing a little bit of golf, which is I've got one of the
Oh,
boys
you're not
down there
allowed to
who's
ski.
going to take
Oh,
me some golf, which would be nice.
of course,
No,
that
I'm
would
not
make
allowed to
sense.
ski.
You can't really turn up with a broken leg, can you?
Well, when you ski, you don't really get injured, like minor injuries. It's normally like a torn ligament or a broken leg. So
Yeah,
even
exactly.
though, to be fair, I played golf in Australia last year. I nearly stood on a red belly snake, which would have put me out of the game. So yeah, there's different challenges in different countries.
I'm gonna say real quickly, what other things are you guys restricted?
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, mate. What other things you guys kind of restricted to do regarding? Obviously, you got to
Yeah.
stay pretty fit. I'm sure players have the same sort of regulations.
Yeah, so normally in like contracts, you can't do any extreme sports or anything like that. And just skiing's part of that. Just, and I don't think you put yourself into that position. So if you
Mm.
want skateboarding or
Yeah.
things like that, just sports which are going to put you in a position where you're not going to tweak something, you're going to really damage something. So they
Yeah.
don't really specify specific sports, but they do say skiing, extreme sports, things like that. And obviously your body is your tool. If you're broken, for example, if I went skiing tomorrow and damaged my knee and was out for 6 months, well, I won't referee for 6 months. So that puts
Yeah.
me 6 months back trying to get back into the game. I'll have missed 6 months of games, then trying to do international stuff, a World Cup in 2027. You set yourself really back, and that's not where you want to be.
Obviously, financially.
Well, luckily, financially, you're still paid a salary in what we do, but we'd miss out on those
Oh, nice. Yeah.
bonuses from World Rugby and other things, which obviously help what we do. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't think they'd be best pleased if we were injured skiing.
Yeah.
There's some nice museums in New Zealand that you can go visit. Nice museums
Well,
and
I've got a pretty busy week. Pretty busy week in Auckland. I've been to Auckland a few times, but a pretty week playing a bit of golf and
nice.
obviously meeting the teams during the week. At least I'll be over my jet lag this time, so I'll spend a
Yeah.
week getting over that before I come over. Normally, I arrive into New Zealand on a Tuesday, and I'm still a bit dusty by Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in Wellington as well? Are you in
Sorry,
Wellington
say
for
that
the
again.
game? Are you officiating the game in Wellington
No,
as well?
no. Normally, what happens is we normally do the 2 tests, but because I'm
Yeah.
doing the Fiji test, um,
Okay.
yeah, I fly home on the Sunday
Uh,
after the Auckland game. So we're away for 3 weeks in Japan in July. So they try
yeah.
and limit us to a couple of weeks because
Yeah.
3 weeks is a long time to away from home.
A lot of people forget that, with referees, they're traveling a lot away from home for big periods of time, eh?
Yeah, we don't effectively we don't get a home game. We're always away every week, even if it's
Yeah.
domestically. You drive in. Then we have the European games where we go away, and now South Africa as well. We go down there with the Europe, and then you go away in the July and for us, July and TRC period. So it's the kind of the season all rolls into one. And I think that again, we never sit there and go, "Oh, pity us." We get to go to some fantastic places in the world, but
Yeah.
particularly when you have kids and stuff, you miss sports days, you miss first day
Mm.
school. The kids get to ages where that they know you're away now. They're like, when you're coming back, do you have to go? You know, uh, Partners are like, well, they're left with kids and things like that. So
Mm.
it's tough on kind of the whole family, but it's a job that I thoroughly enjoy, and you only can do it for a certain amount of time, and then
Yeah.
the dream's over, and you kind of got to pick up something else.
And shout out to all the partners out there, who you know
Mm.
give it give
Support
you guys the freedom to do things like that.
big time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you have like a favourite country or city that you've got to visit through refereeing or playing.
So my favorite probably country to go to, just purely because it's a little. I really enjoy going to Japan. I
Yeah,
really enjoy it. I was very lucky to go again here, but just I enjoy the food, I enjoy the culture, the lifestyle, just almost the fact that it's completely different to most other countries. I thoroughly enjoy it. Going to Rome, Rome is, a massively historical city. The ancient history around there is fantastic, and refereeing there's pretty special as well. But again, like you go to different countries. I've been to Argentina. Every kind of country has something special which you really enjoy. And I'm saying we're just very fortunate that we get to go to all these countries, travel around the world for free, uh, and get to embrace the culture. And we're very lucky as well that while we're in these countries, we also give back to rugby as well. We normally do things with either referees or for example, I'm going to Fiji, and I'm doing a bit of coaching, actually rugby, while I'm out there, as well as doing some coaching around referees within the Pacifica area. So it's pretty good. I enjoy it.
could you ever see yourself getting into a bit of coaching potentially?
So I would love, at some stage to potentially, on what I do now as well in the RFU, I coach a couple of the referees coming
Yeah,
through, which I really enjoy. I know Glenn Jackson went into the kind of coaching professionally, and it's something definitely I'd explore to see if there was kind of that appetite out there. Obviously,
yeah,
we give a unique view from both sides. The knowledge from both sides of that, I think, is crucial in the game and how it's played now. And you only have to look at teams like France have a Jerome Garces, the Springboks have a Jaco Piper. You see a lot of teams in France now have
Mm.
specialist that referees who go in and coach as well. So I
Yeah.
think there is an appetite into the game for that, and I think we could add a lot of value. But again, I haven't. I'm still looking to play referee a little bit longer, and that's an avenue we sort of try and see later down the line.
Yeah.
oh, awesome.
God, busy times ahead. Um,
Very busy. I come straight back into the season.
yeah, because you're gonna be getting stuck into Premiership then, um, coming up towards the
Yeah,
the winter months. Yeah, and
yeah. Premiership straight away when we get back, and then straight into the autumn internationals, straight into
yeah,
Europe.
Champions Cup.
So
Never ending cycle.
it never ends. It never.
Never ending. It's a good thing, I guess. Um,
Well, it's
Yeah,
nice to be busy.
yeah.
bit of a question
Oh,
about your playing career, mate. Um, Obviously your Harlequins days and all that. How did all that come about? How did you learn you were going to debut, and what was your journey like in the professional ranks when it came to? Obviously, you had your brother who was quite well acclaimed. I watched a bit of him actually when I was a young as fella. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
how did all that come around for you?
so. I was playing at Bedford and played. Was playing pretty well. Like, it was called like the National One back then, not the Championship. And they basically a guy. Remember Ben Ryan? Ben Ryan was ex Sevens coach for England.
Yes,
Dean
ginger
Richards
fella.
asked. Yeah, Dean Richards asked him who was kind of the one of the better nines in the National One at the time, and he mentioned my name, and they kind of watched over me, and very fortunate that they wanted to sign me. And they signed me, luckily, unluckily, when I joined, the whole Bloodgate thing happened, and Dean Richards wasn't there when I actually signed. Um, but you know, and when I signed for him, within 3 months I'd broken my leg, so I was out for 8 weeks from playing in a tournament. So I didn't start too great, but then just built, and I was very fortunate that they gave me opportunities to play. Um, Particularly when obviously Danny was away, you got more opportunity. And like anything, when an opportunity comes up in any kind of sport or business wise, you want to take it and perform. And I was very fortunate that I performed well, and the coaches enjoyed what I was doing. Um, and luckily, it led to 169 appearances. Debut wise, if I'm honest, it's going to sound really bad. It was so long ago, 2009, that I couldn't even tell you what my first game was for him. It was so long ago. I could tell you my 100th versus Claremont, but I couldn't tell you who I debuted for. So that's probably something I need to go away and find out.
Google yourself.
That's it.
I could, but well, sometimes Google doesn't even know. So I'll probably I'll figure it out at some point.
That's neat, man.
So, do you have any thoughts on like the proposed R360 competition?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I
Yeah,
suppose it's similar to your uh, what's the cricket one, the Indian Premier League, like cricket, live
Yeah,
golf, that kind of stuff. In terms of would it damage the domestic game? I think it would potentially. So we don't want to do that if it damages it. But we also need some sort of innovation to move rugby forward. Now, is that what our 360 is going to do? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But if people are trying to do something different or trying to bring more financial power into our game, which can only grow the game and audiences and bring
yeah,
more eyes on it, then I think it's potentially a fantastic concept. Is that what 360 is trying to do? I don't know, but I think if we're trying to do stuff that does those things, then it's only good for rugby. What I'd hate for it to happen is this it it takes players from test match rugby, domestic rugby, the international game suffers. But from what we hear, and this is all speculation because we don't all fully know, is that players are going to be released for international rugby. It won't interfere with the international game. So maybe it will become a success. But I presume over due course, we'll find more information around it and exactly what it looks like. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't know enough about it at the moment
yeah.
to make a comment. But I think if it's going to bring more eyes and more money into the game and make it more commercial for the whole game, then
Mm.
I think I see that as a positive impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it brings more eyes and more financial to the game, then it can only be a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always the flip side of it.
Of course there isn't, but again, we've only heard snippets, social media and rugby websites and all that are kind of talking about it, but we actually don't know what it looks like yet. I mean, I don't even know. I heard rumors of how many there's going to be 8 teams, but we don't even know what the team names are going to be. We don't know what players are involved. So it's still early days, but it's exciting. Like Live Golf has joined now with the PGA, so things happen down the line. The
Yeah,
Indian Premier League cricket is a massive success. So
Mm.
again, it's they've just done this Indian Premier League sevens. Again, not heard too much about it, but again, just trying to get more eyes on the game. So
Yeah.
again, it's positive stuff, trying to move in the right direction.
I think
yeah,
if anything, their biggest issue will be like I feel like a lot of rugby fans are quite traditionalist in many ways. Even the younger lot, they kind of come from more traditionalist backgrounds, and you look at even someone like my dad. It took him a while to get into the Super Rugby when it first started. He was a NPC guy back in the day. Followed Waikato and all that. took them a while to get into the actual Super Rugby, and it could be the same with this. So people just they
Yeah.
don't really feel quite like a strong affiliation to any of these teams. The fact that they're all kind of like a super team, or kind of like a NBA style rugby style team, it might
Yeah,
get some keen eyes, but it also might not get that true loyal support.
yeah, and again, I think that's a really good point around that. I mean, I think at the very start, people are going to be following players. It's going to
Yeah.
be
Mm,
who's my
yeah.
favorite player and where's he playing. And again, I'd read today that they got a broadcast deal with YouTube, backed by Peyton Manning and someone else. So
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got a TV deal out there, and teams, personnel might go, oh, Antoine Dupont's my favorite player, so if he plays for this team, then I'll follow them. In terms of
Mm,
Mm.
stadiums, and again, these are only rumours that I've heard that they're looking to play games in potentially San Francisco, Hong Kong, Cape Town, all these kind of different venues. I think, like anything, when Ireland play New Zealand in November, I think they've sold out. So people
Yeah.
will go and watch these
mm,
top teams or top players. So, and again, people are trying different things. I think in the past, people tried this rugby 12s, which didn't kind of take off. So, rugby
Mm.
X was another one that was tried. So, I think people are trying new things to, and again, bring new eyes, new
Yeah.
innovation, new money into the game. So, I think that's the key part around it. Whether it's successful, only time will tell. And hopefully, over the
Mm.
coming months, we'll probably get a bit more information around what the league looks like and how
Mm.
it's going to work. Which, again, we'll see it what kind of see how that affects the sort of global world rugby landscape.
Yeah. Interesting times ahead for sure.
It'll be interesting to be a match official at those games. With such a mix of players, like how are they going to choose what games you officiate?
Yeah. Well, again, and as far as I know, I don't even know if any match officials have been approached around this league. So again, what does that look like from a match
Mm.
official term? Because you're going to need some at some point. Um, you know, they say there's a number of players that have been signed, but we don't know who. So
Yeah.
again, it's something where we'll kind of wait and see what happens moving forward.
Yeah.
Surely at some point there will be, if they get the right amount of players, then
Mm.
and I presume they'll move on to the next piece of the puzzle, which is the match officials.
Yeah. Yeah. Be interesting to see how it's received over in the States. Rugby just seems to be getting more and more popular over there every year. And then when you hear names like Barack Obama getting involved in something like this, you have to imagine it would just be a positive thing when it comes to marketing rugby over there.
Yeah, potentially, but the MLR have just lost three of their teams, so they've gone from 10 to 7. So
Yeah.
they're struggling to talk about teams joining the URC, teams joining
Mm.
Super Rugby. It's interesting times for rugby over there. They're competing against some of the biggest sports in the world.
Yeah.
So again, they're looking forward to the World Cup in 2031. What does that look like? We don't know because obviously 2027 hasn't happened. So again, it's exciting times, but it's also apprehensive on how it's going to look going forward.
talking about new things going forward. Do you have much initial thoughts on the new format for the new World Cup coming up?
I think with the 24 teams, I think it's great. And again, we were speaking about more eyes on the game, more people watching it. Well, if you've got other teams, so I think obviously Hong Kong have qualified. So does that bring, potentially more Hong Kong, China eyes on the game? There's over
Mm.
1 billion people in China. Do they get into to watch it? Zimbabwe, again, another country that have qualified. So all these, other nations qualifying for the World Cup potentially can bring more eyes to the game. I guess the flip side to it is around, you know, what's the competition going to look like in terms of when you've got those, the number 1, 2 in the world's playing the number 23, 24 in the world, and
Yeah.
how does that act as a competition?
Yeah.
But again, the only way these teams are going to get better. So you look at something like a Georgia situation. The only way Georgia are going to get better is by playing the best teams in the world,
Yeah.
and learning, moving forward. So I think it's great for the game and the fact that you're trying to grow the game and bring the game forward and develop these teams. And we're at the early stages. Some of these teams aren't even professional, like a Hong Kong, for example. I think they only have something like 8 professional players. So does
Oh
that
wow.
bring more money to
Yeah.
them? Does that develop the game in Hong Kong? And that's only a good thing.
Yeah. They need the
For
exposure, don't they?
sure.
Or
Sure.
it's not going to go forward for them.
Yeah, and also like you get the exposure. You play in a World Cup, and you're a player who, for example, plays in the Zimbabwean national team, local team, or the Hong Kong domestic league, and you're in the window. Teams can
Yeah.
see you actually playing and go, "You know what, he's a fantastic player. Let's bring him over here." So
Yeah.
you're developing that rugby talent.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, it can only be a good thing.
What are your thoughts on the club rugby World Cup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I know it's been like start 2028, I believe that's right. It
Yeah.
starts.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting in terms of because they're on about playing at the end of is it June or July? You've got for example the French league or
Yeah.
the English league. You actually all finish end of June, start of July sort of time,
Mm.
and then Super Rugby finishes similar time,
Yeah.
May
Yeah.
June.
Around like June.
So
Yeah. June.
these players and teams have had a long, long season, and then you're asking them to almost go into this massive competition against, Southern, Northern, and where's it going to be played? How's it going to be financed? Uh, Again, it's exciting because you want
Yeah.
that innovation, that's something different. Um, where's it going to be played will be again supporters wise, who can watch it, where can they watch it? For example, up here we have 3 different sort of media streams to watch 3 different competitions, and it's £10 here, £10 there, £10 there, and people aren't willing to pay that. So, but again, I think it's a fantastic idea. What it looks like, I don't think we quite know yet. But again, we've
Yeah.
still got 3 years until we see it. So it'll be interesting. Again, next year we've got the Nations Cup. So again, that's kind of the inaugural year next year. See what that looks like and how it works and the reception people give for it. But again, it's something different, something people are trying
Yeah.
to grow the game, which again is exciting.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm very excited for it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to
Oh
see.
my.
I just want to see the Crusaders and Leinster get up, meet. So yeah, it's gonna be a good
It's
one.
a little set of the old North versus South. Some of those debates might
Yeah,
might
and
feed the fire though.
yeah, and again, it's like you probably you might, for example, you get like a Bordeaux versus Crusaders.
Yeah.
It'd be a fantastic game to watch, and I'm sure people would thoroughly enjoy it. But
Mm.
again, are you going to get the best of both teams at the end of that season? That's the
Yeah.
question you ask.
Yeah.
And then you've got international rugby as well. You only have to look at what the French team did this year going down to New Zealand. They rested a lot of their first team players because they played so much rugby, and it's week in, week out. You're having to play because you need your best players.
Mm. Yeah. That's the risk. All right.
But I
Yeah.
want to see it. I want to see that
Yeah.
game. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
That'd be phenomenal. Um, how did you feel when you got called up for the World Cup? How did you feel when you found
Yeah,
out that you were going to be officiating in the World Cup?
yeah. So I mean, I'll go for the 2023 one because the 2019 one was more kind of again. I hadn't been around that very long.
Yeah.
But it's really weird because we only get selected after the Six Nations of that
Okay.
season.
Yeah.
So 2023 Six Nations finishes mid-March, and we don't find out until May, first week of May, second
Uh,
week of May.
Yeah.
So it's all that build up of like, are you going? Are you not going? What's going
yeah.
on? And people are constantly asking you, well, do you know? Are you in? Like, because people want to know family tickets, like what games you've got,
Yeah.
all the rest of it. So it's quite an anxious way because
Mm.
you can sit there and go, oh, I think I've done enough. I think I've done. You just never know. It's like anything. You go for an interview with four people in the interview, you come out of it and go, oh, I think I've done all right. I performed well. But
Mm.
it's what four people, five people think determine whether you get picked or not. And that's kind of, very, very anxious way. And
Yeah.
then your phone rings, and you're waiting for the kind of them to get to the point that, oh, it took a lot of deliberations and, we needed to consider everybody, but, and then, the but is like the longest but in the world. And then, like, you're part of the 2023 team. And then you can't really describe the feeling. You're like, what a massive achievement,
Yeah.
massive privilege, and it's something you've worked for your whole career to get selected for a World Cup, and
Mm.
now it's finally sort of come true as a referee. So it's almost like a weight's lifted at the same time.
I guess when it
Yeah,
comes to like
yeah,
huge
it
games
comes to
like
a
the
few.
final, like you're only finding out like a few days sometimes beforehand or a week.
Yeah, yeah. We found, so for example, we found out around our games for the actual World Cup in
Yeah.
July. So only 2 months before the competition, and then while you're at the competition, before the quarterfinal, semis, and final, you're
Mm.
finding out literally 3 or 4 days before the game
Yeah.
and who your team
Okay.
Oh
is,
wow,
and all the rest of it. So yeah,
pretty short notice.
like it's a pretty intense environment, but you're part of a team, and boys are really happy for everybody. You want
Yeah.
everyone to succeed. You want to be part of that team, making sure everybody succeeds and do the best. Because I'm a massive believer of, if you're the referee, if an AR does his job, the TMO does his job. We all succeed together.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
only good for us as a team. If someone kind of goes off and does their own thing because they feel that
Yeah.
it looks good for them, but it's a detriment to the team, well, then the team fails. And so, I'm a massive believer of sort of that team and succeeding together.
I think one of my favorite games in the World Cup was the Ireland All Blacks game, the quarter final. And I just feel
Yeah,
like
well,
everything just went so well. Obviously, Ireland lost, but everything just went so well. As regards like the play and the officiating, I just feel like it just went so smoothly that game, and it was really enjoyable to watch. Um, like how like
I think
there must be you must have some favorite games that you've officiated versus like ones that have had been rife with controversy, and would that rank as like a successful game for you guys?
well, I mean, the quarterfinals as a whole across the whole weekend. You heard people saying, pundits, countries, they're some of the best rugby games they've ever seen. Like the excuse me, the jeopardy. How good the games were and all the rest of it, and not some of the games had a bit more scrutiny than others, and that's always going to happen in these games. But as a whole, the whole quarterfinal was a massive success for rugby, and the drama around stuff was just fantastic. And for me personally, the game you want to referee the biggest games in the world. They're the games that you want to be part of. Um, that's what you want to do. Now, what do those games look like? Last year, for example, I refereed Ireland, South Africa. you
Yeah.
know, a massive game because you had number one and number two in the world,
Mm.
and you want to be part of that. I did Ireland, France in the Six Nations at the time, the biggest game in the Six Nations because, again, of what happened at the World Cup. So
Yeah.
I think different games are, perceived differently. For example, one of our colleagues, Luke's refereeing USA Canada this weekend. Well, that's a massive game in a different way because it's around World Cup qualification and how the teams go and how they prepare. So
Yeah.
each game is different in its own manner, but some games are bigger than others. But you want to be part of those big games, and most internationals now are massive games, not just for you know you as a referee, but players, fans, as a spectacle. So I wouldn't say there was a particular teams you want to referee, but I think you just want to be part of those big games.
I just wanted to ask what the atmosphere was like around the World Cup, because watching through the TV, it just looked incredible.
Oh,
Like,
it was uh, like electric. You go to Stade de France. I mean, the 82,000 82,000 people in there, and it is loud. It is noisy. We
yeah,
had one of the boys got a video, part of the whistleblowers kind of documentary. They sent him a video of you know some of the noise when he was announced on the screen, and it's deafening.
yeah,
Adds to the occasion, and you know um, the momentous thing around the World Cup. There's so many different fans from so many different countries coming in. I mean, we did. I was part of a team. We did. I think it was Japan, Chile. I mean,
yeah.
what a game down in Toulouse. Just the atmosphere, the Japanese crowd, the Chile crowd, the no- and it's some of the best atmospheres you're ever going to get across the world
Mm.
because fans from all over the world come in, and it all focus that on and off the field, which is great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to be a part of.
I mean, you go out in an evening or for during the day for when the games are on, and it's crazy. It's particularly in France, which is a massive rugby country.
Yeah.
It's really special.
Do you ever have to deal with harassment from people when you like after a game? If you go out after a game in a certain area, do you ever have to deal with do people ever approach you over?
It's really nice. What you find is, person to person, there is never any hassle. People are always want to have a chat with you. You have a bit of friendly banter with them about stuff, and they're really nice, like over a few
Yeah.
beers when you're out or whatever. But also, like sometimes you just got to be smart about
Mm.
when you go out after games.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be a case of, do you know what? Something's happened in that game. It's probably not smart that I go out because you
Mm.
just never know. You just never
Yeah.
know what might happen. So you use a bit of
Yeah.
common sense, but most of the time you go out, have a great
Mm.
time. People tend to recognize you in, again, different areas of the world. And you normally they'll buy you a drink or have a conversation, and they probably had about 15 pints at the rugby, so they're dead friendly. So no, never you never get harassed. Well, touch wood, I haven't
Yeah.
outside a ground or in town after a
Yeah.
game.
Oh, that's really good to hear, actually. Yeah, it's great.
Right, Carl. There's one call I want to kind of ask you about. Is Lion Series second test right at the end, the Jack Morgan clear out on Carlo Tizzano. What are your thoughts on that? Was it?
So, and again, it's been talked around the world. For me, the big thing is we've got to look at players arriving at a similar time. Players
Yeah,
arrive at a similar time. So I won't. I won't go. It's right or it's wrong,
yeah,
because that's not for me to say. People have their own opinion. For me, all I would look at is the process the referees went through. Is clearly trying to wrap, which he gets his arm out to grasp.
yeah,
They arrive at a similar time. If he was late to the breakdown, then we might have a different conversation, because within the process we talk about,
Mm.
do they arrive at a similar time? Do they arrive late? Then the question around what is late, again, the grey, subjective. What's late for you might not be late for me. So
yeah,
that's the question. Do they arrive at a similar time? Are they at a similar height? Does Jack Morgan look to wrap, grasp in the tackle, in the clear out? If he does, then it's play on. If he doesn't, well, then obviously it's foul play. So
Mm.
if you go through the process around it, for me personally, the referees I thought made a fantastic decision under pressure, some people are going to say that they think it's wrong. Some people are going to say it's right. I
Yeah.
think they went through the process they went through was right, and that's the outcome they came to.
Yeah.
So,
Nevertheless, it was an awesome game. So
oh, it's an awesome game, and it's one of them things where you know would that have happened if it was in the second minute of the game? Would it have been looked at? I don't know, but
yeah,
because it's the last play of the game for the game, you want to make sure that because the player's injured, that you explain why the player's injured and what your rationale is, what's your process, so the whole world can go, I get it. I get how they got to their decision. They might
yeah,
not agree with how you got there or the decision, but they at least can understand how you got there. And I think that's really important sometimes that people understand the process and what you've said and how you've got to the outcome you've got, rather
Mm,
than you just going, no, no, it's nothing. Let's move on. And then people are like, well,
yeah,
tell me why. And I think that's the educational piece around what I think referees can do as well as commentators and pundits. We can articulate and educate everybody around every decision we make by
mm,
trying to explain why we've got that decision. And then again, that only betters people's knowledge of the game.
yeah. No,
yeah.
awesome.
At the end of the day, someone's going to be angry, eh?
Yeah.
If they awarded no try, you'd have a bunch of Lions fans who are pretty upset.
Yeah, like
So
yeah, you
it goes
have
both ways.
people who look at it in a different way. You can find a lot of stuff in a game of rugby if you go looking for it. We talk about clear and obvious. If you fast forward, slow down, frame by frame, you're going to see more than you do if you're just at real speed. And you're not always going to please everybody. As I say, referees make mistakes as well as players do. Players miss tackles, miss 2-on-1s, kick poorly. So, their mistakes are just the same as ours. We just hope players' mistakes and our mistakes aren't the ones that lead to potential games being won.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Were you ever into any other sports when you were a younger man, like, or was it always kind of rugby was your jam? Like that was what you wanted to
No,
do?
I played. No, I always played all sports. I love to try different sports. Played a lot of football when I was younger as well, but more got into the rugby side of things. Back in UK, it's highly competitive football and stuff like that. And at my older age, or when I started playing rugby, probably in my 20s, I'm a keen golfer, so I play a lot of golf now. That's my sort of main hobby away from rugby, as well as I really enjoy CrossFit as well, which got to get that in there somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you train CrossFit, is that right?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, so I really enjoy it.
Oh, good, good. CrossFit scares me. It always just looks so intense.
You give it a go, you'll enjoy it.
I
Everyone
might
thinks
give it a
that until they.
go. I walk past a ton of CrossFitters when I go to my reformer Pilates, and I'm just looking at them going, "Oh my god, intense."
Right. Well, I've just tried sorting some out down in Auckland, so I've contacted a couple of gyms to kind of sort out a
Oh,
couple of sessions while I'm down there.
brilliant. Good, good.
Little question here was just about like just whatever you're comfortable with, mate. But just a little bit of your early life. Just growing up where you grew up, sort of thing, and kind of how it shaped you to be the person you are today.
Yeah, like so I was classed myself as a nomad. My dad was in the army, so we moved around a lot when I was younger. And obviously the army sort of lifestyle, discipline, sort of independence, kind of moving around all the time, making new friends, and that kind of stuff. So, I kind of did that until I was sort of 11 and then went to boarding school. So from the ages of 11 to 18, I went to boarding school. Again, building that independence at the school. I went to Barnard Castle School. And probably the biggest thing, like, and I'd probably say this, it's probably the same for my brother. If without going to boarding school, I don't think I'd probably be where I was today. Going around army schools was a little bit different, a little bit more
Hmm.
challenging. Probably not the education that you wanted to, pursue kind of some of these high echelon sort of jobs. So I was very fortunate that within the army they give a significant amount to the school to allow you to go, and my obviously parents contribute as well. But the boarding school was probably the biggest factor in changing me as a person, developing me as a sportsman, as a sort of person who I am today, as well as that army kind of influence as well, but also that independence around coming, being young, being kind of alone from a young age. So when you went to university and stuff, a lot of these kids have lived with their parents since they were, up to their 18 and had no clue what to do when they got to sort of uni by themselves. Where I was like, well, I've done this now for the last sort of 7 years and it comes quite
Yeah.
naturally. And I think it builds that character moving forward. So those kind of things shaped me into where I was going into university. And as I said, I didn't play rugby really at uni. I played football with my mates and really enjoyed it. And then after I'd done my degree, I decided to a postgrad and just thought I'd give rugby one more go and see where it took me. And I was very lucky. I kind of got the opportunity at Bedford, and it worked out.
You always been quite naturally fit.
I think like always naturally, just I enjoy like I was never the most academic person in the world, so sport was my thing. And when I was younger, I'd always go out with play and doing some sort of sport, and I really enjoyed it. So it probably moved that through the years where I enjoyed going to the gym, I enjoyed training, keeping fit, and I'm a little bit older now, and I still enjoy that now. I still try and train as much as I can each day, stay fit, even when I go abroad, go on holidays. I like to stay fit, like to stay in shape, and I try and encourage my kids in that to do as much sport as they can, as well as encouraging their academics.
Good
So
stuff,
important.
mate. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, important.
All right, we won't take up too much more of your time, Carl, but there's a question we ask at the end of every podcast, and that is, what are 3 things you're grateful for in life?
3 things I'm grateful for, I'd say my kids, my health, which has allowed me to get through, all these sort of different sort of challenges around rugby, playing, refereeing, coming through. So, I've luckily not had too many injuries going through, touch wood, and just the people around you, your friends, family, that you lean on in these times. Life can get tough. Life can be hard sometimes. There's a lot of challenges in life. I use the phrase, you don't really know what's going behind closed doors. People have a lot of stuff going on, and, friends and family around you can lean on, and ask for help. So they're probably the 3 things, my kids, health, and family and friends.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and enjoy your time down south.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Absolute pleasure.
We really appreciate you coming on, Karl. Good to chat.
Pleasure.
Yeah, really appreciate it, mate. You've been a great talk to, and honestly, one of the things about you is, well, I found with referees, when you haven't heard too much about them, it's a good thing.
Well, the alien nation, you know a lot about players, but we don't speak about referees too much.
Some.
Maybe some.
Yeah.
Nah, really appreciate it, mate. Cheers, bro.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.